So a monarch gets a new emblem at the start of their rule, and that helps to symbolize and set the tone for their God-willing, long continued time as monarch. The emblem has 3 flowers to symbolize that he is the third of his name. It features the Rose of England. The daffodil represents Wales, and Prince William is now the Prince of Wales because he is the next heir to the throne, and it's always either the prince or the princess. The Thistle of Scotland sidebar. Great Britain would not be what it is today without the great sacrifice of Mary, Queen of Scots. She ascended the throne as an infant, grew up in French court, married the Dauphin. She was briefly Queen of France and Scotland as a teenager. Yes, she was a badass. The King of France, her husband, then tragically died at a very young age from the ear infection, and she was sent back to Scotland. Yet due to the high influence and sexism of John Knox, who ran the Protestant movement in Scotland, she had to endure a lot of abuse from him and her insane first cousin slash husband slash baby father, if you will, and she was wrongfully imprisoned when she sought protection from her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I. She was eventually executed, but her son was her great sacrifice, who became King of Scotland the day he was born, since she was forced against her will to abdicate in favor of her son while being thrown in jail. And then her son became king of both England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales in 1603. So due to her sacrifice, the country is united for the first time ever into what is now known Britain. Queen Mary is the true hero. Women in history were not treated very fairly, and if you were a monarch and you had a boy, they would ascend the throne. If you had 2 boys, the older boy would be next in line, and so on and so forth. If you had a daughter first and then a boy, the boy, even though born second, would be the heir to the throne. And how unfair is that? And you can say that's just how times were back then, but what about ancient Egyptian times? Women were not treated as though they were second-class citizens. Same thing with the Vikings. How and when and why were women just treated like homeowners with no voice, no rights, yet the monarchy would not have survived 1,000 plus years without women? Reproducing is the most important aspect of the monarchy. But again, we were treated like second-class citizens. Why? So anyway, that's a quick little history on Scotland. And then the shamrock represents Northern Ireland, and the rest of Ireland is not under British rule, which I don't blame them. But while we are on the topic, some folks may question why Joe Biden wasn't at the coronation alongside First Lady Jill Biden. And Joe apparently has lots of English heritage. Majority of people in America do. And his grandmother is apparently very Irish. And as I'm sure you can understand, much of Ireland probably doesn't think much of the monarchy. His grandmother apparently told him not to bow to the king. But to be fair, if you go through history, no president of the United States has ever attended a coronation of Britain's next monarch. So altogether, it's UK's 4 nations: the Rose of England, the Thistle of Scotland, the Daffodil of Wales, and the Shamrock of Northern Ireland. And together, the stylized flowers have been shaped to form St. Edward's crown, originally made in 1661 for King Charles II. Why has the monarchy thrived for so long? I don't know, but it's fascinating. And then with his new emblem, people are saying that this symbolizes the new Carolingian era. The last time a monarch's reign was referred to as the Carolingian era was his named predecessor, Charles II. It was a time for the arts, or better yet, the Restoration, and it was followed by a time where there was briefly no king. So when James II went into exile, why? I'm not 100% sure on all of the details. I haven't really researched him much, but I'm assuming it's because Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church, and then his successor, Elizabeth I, continued that legacy and on to James I, who united Scotland, England, Wales, and Ireland, finally, from the sacrifice of Mary, Queen of Scots. But James II tried to revert everything back to Catholicism. And that clearly was a bad move on his part, and that ended the era. So the term Carolean must mean that Charles III is going to usher the UK into a more modern, artistic era. What are your thoughts?